Welcome to Bedtime Horror, your portal to scary stories. It was a dark and stormy night, and I found myself alone in my house. The rain pelted against the windows, and the howling wind created an eerie symphony that echoed through the rooms. The occasional flash of lightning illuminated the interior, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. My husband was away on a business trip, and I had grown accustomed to the solitude during his travels. However, this night felt different. The relentless storm outside intensified my sense of isolation, making me acutely aware of every creak and groan in the old house. As I sat on the couch, trying to distract myself with a book, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It was a subtle sensation at first, a nagging unease that settled deep in my gut. I brushed it off, attributing it to the storm playing tricks on my imagination. But then came the sounds, the faintest whispers of footsteps, the subtle rustling of curtains, and the occasional thud that reverberated through the floorboards. My pulse quickened, and I strained my ears to listen more closely. Surely, it was just the wind, I thought. I ventured into the kitchen to make some tea, hoping the warmth would ease my anxiety. As I stood by the stove, I glimpsed movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned my head sharply, but there was nothing there, just the shadows cast by the flickering candlelight. I chastised myself for letting my imagination run wild. It was a common occurrence during these stormy nights. I resolved to finish my tea and head to bed early, hoping that sleep would provide the solace I desperately needed. With my tea in hand, I returned to the living room and settled back onto the couch. I tried to lose myself in the book once more, but my senses remained on high alert. And then, as if to confirm my growing unease, it happened. A shadowy figure stood just outside of my window, just beyond the reach of the dim candlelight. My heart leaped into my throat as I stared in shock and terror. The silhouette moved with purpose, clearly deliberate in its actions. I couldn't see the person's face, obscured by the darkness and the rain-splattered glass, but their intent was clear. They had been watching me. Fear gripped me in its icy embrace, and I felt a rising panic that threatened to overwhelm my senses. My trembling hands fumbled for the phone on the coffee table, and with shaking fingers, I dialed 911. My voice trembled as I reported the intruder and the ominous phone calls I had received in the preceding days. As I waited for the police to arrive, the shadowy figure outside my window continued to loom, an unsettling presence in the stormy night. My heart pounded, and I realized that my life was about to change in ways I could never have imagined. Soon, the wailing sirens of the police car pierced the night, and the flashing red and blue lights bathed the room in an eerie glow. The officers arrived swiftly, their stern expressions conveying the seriousness of the situation. With guns drawn and flashlights cutting through the darkness, they ventured outside to confront the mysterious figure. I watched through the window, my heart was pounding with anticipation, hoping that this ordeal would soon be over. The rain had not relented, and the visibility outside was poor. The officers approached the lurking figure cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness and raindrops. I held my breath, praying for a swift resolution. Moments later, I saw commotion outside. The officers had apprehended the person, and I let out a sigh of relief. They returned to the house, escorting the figure, now handcuffed, into my living room. The man was drenched from head to toe, his face a mask of frustration and defeat. The officers informed me that they had identified the stalker as a neighbor from a few houses down the street. I couldn't believe it. Someone I had seen in passing, someone from my own neighborhood, had been terrorizing me. The police explained that the man had developed a disturbing obsession with me. They had found evidence in his possession, including photographs he had taken of me without my knowledge. It sent chills down my spine to think of how long he had been watching and stalking me. He was promptly arrested and taken into custody. I felt a mix of emotions, fear, anger, and a profound sense of violation. How had I been living so close to someone capable of such twisted behavior? In the days that followed, The police assured me that they would keep a close watch on the neighborhood to ensure my safety. They recommended taking precautions, such as installing security cameras and alarm systems, to ease my mind. Knowing that the man was behind bars brought some comfort, but the scars of the ordeal ran deep. I couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of unease whenever I looked out my window or answered the phone. However, with time and the support of friends and family, I began to rebuild my life and regain a sense of security. The closure came as the stalker was charged with stalking and invasion of privacy. He was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, ensuring that he would no longer pose a threat to me or anyone else. Finally, I could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that the nightmare was over and my home was once again a sanctuary. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness began to blanket the neighborhood, I found myself alone at home. My parents had gone out for the night, leaving me in charge of our cozy little house. It was a typical evening, nothing out of the ordinary. I was in the living room, watching TV and trying to keep my mind off the fact that I was home alone. The wind outside howled, causing the trees to tap on the windows, creating eerie sounds that sent shivers down my spine. As I was engrossed in a TV show, my ears perked up at the sound of something strange. It was a subtle noise, like a creaking floorboard, coming from the direction of the basement. My heart raced, and my imagination started to run wild. I turned off the TV and listened carefully. There it was again, a faint, eerie noise. I decided I had to investigate. Maybe it was just the wind playing tricks on me. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed toward the basement door. With trembling hands, I slowly opened the basement door. The darkness below was unsettling, and the dim light from the hallway barely reached the top of the stairs. I crept down, my heart pounding louder with each step. As I reached the bottom, I flicked on the basement light, and to my horror, I saw a shadowy figure hunched over, going through our belongings. The intruder had a mask covering their face, and I could see the glint of a weapon in their hand. Fear washed over me as the intruder turned to face me. Their eyes, visible through the mask, bore into mine. They demanded money. My heart felt like it was going to leap out of my chest as I stammered, trying to reason with the intruder. My mind raced, searching for a way out of this nightmare. I knew I had to stay calm and make the right move. Slowly, I backed away from the intruder, keeping my eyes locked on theirs. I knew I couldn't reach for my phone, any sudden movement might provoke them. Instead, I inched toward the living room, the intruder following me with their chilling gaze. Once in the living room, I made a split-second decision. I lunged toward the door of a nearby room and slammed it shut, locking myself inside. My heart was pounding like a drum as I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911. Tears welled up in my eyes as I frantically told the operator what was happening. They assured me that the police were on their way. I could hear the intruder trying to force their way into the room, but the locked door held. Minutes felt like hours as I waited, my breath shallow and trembling. The sound of sirens in the distance was a lifeline. The intruder must have heard it too because they panicked, retreating from the room. The police arrived swiftly, and the intruder was apprehended. As they were led away in handcuffs, the mask was removed, revealing a desperate individual with a history of criminal activity. It turned out they had been watching our house for days, waiting for an opportunity. My parents returned home to find me shaken but safe. We decided to install a security system to make our home more secure. That night was a terrifying ordeal, but it taught me the importance of staying composed in a crisis and taking action to protect myself. I had agreed to house sit for my friends while they were away on vacation. Their home was nestled in a peaceful, tree-lined suburb, a perfect escape from the city. At first, it seemed like a pleasant and relaxing getaway. The first few nights went smoothly. I enjoyed the tranquility of the house, the tasteful decor, and the sense of solitude. However, as the days turned into nights, strange things began to happen. One evening, while I was reading in the cozy living room, I heard peculiar noises coming from the basement. They were faint at first, almost like distant whispers, but they soon grew louder and more unsettling. I couldn't ignore them any longer. With cautious steps, I ventured into the dimly lit basement. The creaking stairs seemed to echo ominously with every footfall. As I reached the bottom, I could feel a distinct drop in temperature. It was chilling, to say the least. In the dim light, I noticed that the basement was filled with old, dusty belongings left by previous occupants. The eerie silence was only broken by the occasional noise, and it sent shivers down my spine. That night, as I lay in bed, trying to shake off the unease I felt, I heard it again, the soft, sinister whispering. I knew I couldn't dismiss it any longer. Something was amiss. The following night, as I walked down the dimly lit hallway, I heard the unmistakable sound of a door slamming shut. Panic surged through me as I reached the source of the noise, an empty bedroom. The door had been opened just moments before, but now it stood firmly closed. Trepidation gripped me as I pushed the door open. I half expected to find an intruder, but the room was empty. There was no logical explanation for it. I couldn't shake the feeling that the house itself was conspiring against me. As the days passed, the unsettling occurrences continued. Doors slammed shut on their own, whispers echoed through empty rooms, and shadows seemed to move of their own accord. It felt like the very air around me was charged with an unseen malevolence. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I needed answers. With trembling hands, I searched every room, every nook and cranny, looking for anything that could explain these bizarre events. Yet, I found nothing that could provide a rational explanation. I couldn't sleep, couldn't find solace within the walls of that house. It felt like I was living in a nightmare, where reality blurred with the inexplicable. The feeling of being watched was inescapable, as if an invisible presence lurked just beyond my vision. Desperate for answers, I decided to seek professional help. I contacted a local paranormal investigator, who arrived with an array of equipment, ready to uncover the truth behind the haunting. Together, we explored every inch of the house, from the dimly lit attic to the basement shrouded in darkness. We recorded temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic fields, and audio disturbances, hoping to find a rational explanation for the unsettling events. The investigation was exhaustive, and my anxiety only grew as we delved deeper into the mystery. I was no closer to understanding the source of the disturbances that had plagued me for days. Finally, after days of research and analysis, the investigator made a startling discovery. It had nothing to do with the paranormal. Instead, it was a mundane, albeit eerie, explanation. The investigator explained that the house's troubles were the result of an aging heating system. Faulty vents and ducts caused drafts and strange sounds that mimicked whispers. The abrupt slamming of doors was attributed to sudden shifts in air pressure within the house. Relief washed over me as I realized the truth. The unexplained occurrences that had haunted me for days were not the work of malevolent spirits, but rather a series of coincidental and eerie sounds caused by the aging infrastructure of the house. I thanked the paranormal investigator for his thorough work and sighed with relief. It was comforting to know that I wasn't sharing my temporary abode with restless spirits. The house had its quirks, no doubt, but they were far from supernatural. In the end, I found solace in understanding that the unsettling events were the result of natural phenomena. It was a reminder that, in the absence of logical explanations, our minds can conjure the most unsettling of stories. With the repairs made to the heating system, the house was once again a peaceful and serene retreat. As I finished my house-sitting duties, my friends returned from their vacation, oblivious to the peculiar events that had transpired in their absence. I shared my experiences with them, and we had a good laugh about my overactive imagination. The closure came as I handed back their keys and bid farewell to the house that had played host to such strange events. With that, I left their home, grateful for the lessons learned and the stories shared, and returned to the bustling world outside, where life's mysteries awaited once more.